episode of the Smith Boys Podcast.
These are coming through and far between, brother.
Hey,
Little clickety clinks are coming through.
welcome back.
Yep.
Brother.
Let's do another little clickety clink.
3 clinks there. All right. Well, brother,
Yeah, brother.
it's time. Season's over. We're in the midst of
Season's
the NFL playoffs. The Detroit Lions did not make it, as they did not get the help
over.
they
Where'd
needed.
finish, brother? 9-8?
9-8. They didn't get the help they needed. They beat Green Bay at the end of the season, but Seattle won their game, and the Lions are done. Finito. They are out of the playoffs.
Yeah, they are.
So Smith Boys want to give a little bit of a final season breakdown of the Detroit Football Lions and give some grades of what we think the Lions accomplished this year. So,
Okay.
brother, give me a little bit of a recap of what you saw from the Lions this season, what
Well,
you saw, what you liked, what you didn't like.
I'd be glad to, brother.
No, do it.
So
Do it up.
So here's how I kind of saw the season as it really played out for me.
Talk to me.
And this was it was a good season as far as
I got jeans on today, by the way.
brother's
too.
got jeans on.
Got some
and,
jeans on.
He looks good in jeans, brother. Brother looks good in jeans.
Gay!
So my impression of the season, brother, is you came over here every other weekend as your work allowed and stuff, and hopefully next year work is not an issue, brother. You're over here every Sunday.
Hopefully.
Or I'm going up to your place every Sunday.
Hopefully.
So here's my take, though. Starting 1-6 hurt you. It hurt you bad, Harley.
That hurt, Harley. That hurt bad.
It hurt real bad, Harley. So you go 1-6, start the damn season, okay, and then you all of a sudden rattle off 10-2 or 10 wins, 2 losses, 10-12, I should say.
No, they didn't go 10. They were 1-6 and they finished 9-8. So I think they went 8-2 in the final 10 games.
Oh, okay. Was it 8-2?
8-2 in the final 10 games.
Okay, that's what it was. Sorry.
Oh, you can stuff your sorries in a sack, mister.
It was, like I said, it was a season of 2 halves, really, because the first half of the season you shat the bed. The second half of the season, you F the prom queen.
Winners go home and fuck the prom queen.
Okay? So you went from don't even know where your dink is to you're Johnny Slayer. And so now I'm looking at next season and wonder, and I'm just thinking, I can't wait. I cannot wait.
Brothers all in.
Yeah, well, I want to see what
Are
they
you
do.
all in on the Lions?
I don't know, brother.
Are you all in?
No. I can never be all in on the Lions. I can never be all in on the Lions. And I got to stop everybody from wanting to go all in on the Lions.
No, that ain't going to happen.
Well, here's the thing. Is like you all know through time, okay? I'm 41 years old.
I'm a man. I'm 40.
Right? But the thing is, I've seen this song and dance too many times, okay? I've seen the Jim Schwartz coming in, taking them to the playoffs in the first season, and then shitting the bed in the second season, okay? I've seen it. I've seen the Mooch era.
Jim Caldwell.
I've seen Jim Caldwell era. I've seen the Marty Morningwig
Rod
era.
Marinelli.
I've seen the Marinelli. I've seen it all, okay? So
Matt Patricia.
I want to see what they do.
Year 3.
You give me halfway through year 3 before I really would like all season, but I know time is of the essence with all of these predictions and stuff. So give me halfway through. Now, if you want to say what I thought the grade was, I thought the grade of this season, I think the last time I gave them a C+, and I'm going to stick with my grade of a C+, because the first half of the season was so bad, it really killed you in the second half of the season where you couldn't lose a game against Carolina. You couldn't lose that game. Even against Green Bay, you had to win it, which you did. You won that game, but you were so dependent on Seattle, and Seattle had already beaten a putrid, lifeless Rams team earlier that day. So you just kind of went out there and just beat Green Bay just to smack Green Bay around one more time. That season, this season, which was good. It's always good to see kind of Aaron Rodgers eat his words and Green Bay just get smacked around a little bit. It's always good to see that. But
Both.
You know, you lost to Seattle earlier in the season, right?
You blew the first game against Minnesota.
Yeah,
You should have beat Buffalo on Thanksgiving.
Yeah, and you probably should have came back and beat Miami.
Probably,
The Washington game was good, and even the Philly game. Look where Philly's at. You were in that game against Philly, the first game of the year. So there was a lot of games in the beginning half of the year that I thought the Lions kind of just failed to seize the moment, and then the second half of the season they seized their moments and they capitalized on them. So that's where I'm going. That's where I'm going. To me, the season was too inconsistent when you look at all of it together, and that's where I'm going C+. That's
C+
what I got.
for brother. Okay. I agree. I echo a lot of your sentiments there, brother. That was pretty good.
My grade might be a little low to some. I understand.
Pretty good summation
but
of the season.
I got to look at all of it.
Those first 7 games where you started out 1-6 was just
It was brutal.
You can't do that.
You can't do that.
There was games in there that you should have had, you should have won. The Minnesota game being primary example. You were in a lot of the other games too against the Eagles. Week 1 you were in. I mean, really the only game that you weren't in was the Patriots game.
Yeah,
Patriots game you got throttled out of the building, and you had no business being there.
Yeah. I'm starting to remember some of them games. I was like, God, I remember those games so vividly. And then it's
that game was the Genesis Smith Boys podcast. That's what created us to start this podcast. Was the game.
Well, we were talking about it,
and then they came back and lost to the Cowboys after their bye week.
Yeah,
it was a close game. They weren't. Offense did not look good most of that game, and then
it was close. It was never
close
really
until
run away by Dallas
until Dallas kind of late got away with it, and then it was Miami, or they're up 17-0 against Miami, and ended up blowing that game away. And then they went on the run. They beat the Packers, they beat the Bears, they beat the Giants, and to me, the Giants game is where things kind of changed for me. The Giants game, when they smacked the shit out of the Giants in New York. That was a lot of people are saying the Bears game is where things turned for them. But the Bears game, to me, they were down like 14-0, like late in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
And it took the football gods smiling down upon you with a turnover and a pick six to get back in that. And you kind of won that game miraculously in spite of how you played.
A little bit.
Most of the game.
I think Justin Fields rushed for like 150 yards in that game.
Yeah.
I mean, it's something ridiculous.
The Giants game to me is where I saw like this team is playing bully ball. This team's beating the snot out of other teams.
I think they injured like 7 Giants in that game. Like there were 7 different stoppages of time where Giants players were hurt.
I believe that. That was probably the most physical I had seen the Lions team actually beat up another team.
Around,
And then I think the next week was Thanksgiving, and they lost to the Bills, where they should have won, but your coach Dan Campbell really shrewded it.
He shrewded
at the end and kind of mismanaged the clock and didn't know what he was doing, and he ended up blowing it. And then they went on the run.
But you felt good though after that game because you were like,
"We're hanging with the best team in the AFC. We're hanging with a Super Bowl contender here."
Right.
And then they won every other game. They won every game the rest of the season after Buffalo, except for the Carolina game, which is a game you had to have, unfortunately. And I think after winning a couple games in a row,
Jacksonville after Buffalo, and they smacked shit out. And look at where Jacksonville ended up. Jackson ended up in the divisional playoff game against Kansas City. I mean, you got to say, like,
Jacksonville won a playoff game.
Yeah, Jacksonville did win a
beat
playoff
the
game,
Ravens.
and you beat the shit out of them 40-14.
Yeah.
And then Minnesota came to town, and you beat the shit out of them.
Yep.
Then you went on the road, and everybody knew that tough game against the Jets. That was going to be one of those games where
that was another game to me. That was like the Giants game to me. Was the Jets game, because the Jets game was a game to me where it was like, this is going to be a tough game, but it came down to the wire at the end, and I'm mentally trained.
Brock Wright. Brock.
My client, Brock Lesnar!
I'm mentally trained just to see the Lions in a game like that against the Jets late.
And lose.
And I'm mentally trained just to say, oh, well, they're going to blow this game, But they did the complete opposite of same old Lions, and they dug deep, and they actually came back, and they won that game, and they put it away when they needed to. And that was another game like the Giants game to me that showed me something a little bit different.
My client, Brock Wright.
Brock!
Yeah. He's your new tight end.
Yeah. You got to put Brock Lesnar, Pell Heyman in there.
Speak the king's English. They don't belong to
And And then they lost to the Panthers after that, and that was really the game that you had to have. If you beat the Panthers, you control your own destiny the rest of the season.
And of all of the games that were left, it was the Jets, the Panthers, the Bears, and the Packers.
The Jets was the game you were probably anticipating them losing.
Right. And the Panthers was the game of those four.
You were
'cause you
anticipating
kinda,
them winning.
before they went to 17 games, you always kind of look at the season in quarters, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, like, the last quarter of the season would have been them 4 games. I would have thought Carolina was the game that they had the least chance of losing.
Yeah.
Because the Bears, you thought, hey, they may seek revenge. It's a divisional game. They're the Bears.
Packers are going into
Bears,
Green
Lions,
Bay.
blah, blah, blah. Even though it's a home game, da-da-da-da. However, the Panthers game, I was like, that's the game I feel more confident.
Yeah.
going
And the
into.
Panthers ran for like 350 yards,
oh
ran
my
all up down the field line.
God.
It was terrible.
Yeah.
And
it didn't look good from Jump Street.
No. And it's a shame because that was a game that had you won that, you
You're in the
controlled
playoffs.
you controlled your own destiny
Yeah.
the rest of the season. You just kind of just went out and you're good.
You
But
go
they-
to San Francisco, though. I think that was what it was going to be.
When they lost though, when they lost is where the problem came in because now you lost and now you need help to get in.
yeah.
Plus you need to win out to get in. Whereas it's just like, well, let's just beat Carolina and now basically we just need to win and then we can see what other teams do and we can still maybe control our own destiny. But once you lost that game, it was like, oh, well, shit, now we need help and now we got to be perfect. And
Right.
it's so hard to be perfect in the NFL.
Oh, yeah.
And to get the help you need is also very hard. But that game went to overtime.
So what grade are you giving them? I gave them a C+.
I know
here.
you gave him a C+. I kind of want to give him. I kind of want to give him a B- because I had him going, I think 5-12 to start the year, and they went 9-8.
Yeah.
Now, when they started 1-6, it was like, well, this team ain't starting. This team ain't even going 5-12. This
Yeah.
team's going to go like 3-14.
Yeah. And Dan Campbell's getting fired.
Campbell's probably could be on the brink of getting fired here.
I don't want him back. Go do something else. Bye-bye.
So I don't know what the hell happened. I don't know if Dan Campbell is some genius, great coach where things finally just clicked and the team started buying in and the team fired up a new attitude and, they went on this great run that lasted half a season.
So what do you grade Dan Campbell then? So tell me where you grade him.
I think I've got to give him a C because
A C.
Yeah, because starting 1-6 is just unacceptable. I mean, you might as well start 0-7
Okay.
at that point. You start.
I think in the coaching side of it, I do think it is a bit, and I know I'm
You
probably
started
gonna get
1-6.
I'm probably gonna get a bit of hypocrisy on this, but like I'm gonna give Campbell a little bit of a higher grade because he made the call on Aubrey Pleasant. He's made the call on Anthony Lynn last year. He's made the right calls as far as the coaching staff goes. And I think a part of his demise early on in the season maybe was a little bit of the defensive scheme with Aaron Glenn and riff with
Could
Aubrey
be
Pleasant.
riff within, yeah.
So maybe maybe it kind of took some time for Aaron Glenn to kind of talk to Dan Campbell. I'm telling you right now, Dan Campbell as a head coach is having these conversations with Aaron Glenn, with Ben Johnson, from more of a head coach to defensive coordinator, where they're very candid. I'm sure. Me in my position at work, I have a lot of these conversations with people under me that are very candid, one-on-one. I'm just saying, I can only imagine what it is at that level. I can only imagine. It's bare bones, baby. It's all about business. I'm serious. So that's what I'm saying. He's like, probably he sees this, he gets frustrated with it. He's like, yeah, that son of a bitch needs to go. So out Aubrey Pleasant goes.
And then all of a sudden the defense starts
All of
playing
a
lot
sudden
better.
the defense becomes like a top 10 defense in a matter of like a week or two. Give me 2 weeks.
I don't know if
That
they were
team-
top 10. We'd have to look at the stats.
Okay, top 12.
Yeah, they were.
top 12 defense.
I would say
they were
at least,
top 15.
at least based on the eye test, watching them the last half of the season. Once Pleasant got fired, it seemed like they were probably a top half of the league defense.
Oh, for sure.
I don't know statistically where they ranked.
I
but
thought James Houston really came on. I think their rookies.
Kirby Joseph,
The rookies had 19 and a half sacks. It was the
Hutch.
most. It was the most sacks by a rookie draft
Hushimama.
class. Yeah, by a rookie draft class of the Lions ever. So now you get to look forward to next year with Hutch. You got James Houston. You got a number 6 pick. You got a number 18 pick.
Mhm.
You got 2 first-round picks. You got 2 second-round picks.
You got to
right?
think Joseph and Rodrigo are going to get better.
For sure. And you still need a middle linebacker.
Still need a corner.
And you still need a corner. I don't know what Okudah. I don't know what you have with Okudah. You know,
He looked bad towards the end of the season. He got benched.
so you said C for Campbell. I'm going to give Campbell a B minus. Okay, because I still think some of those mistakes he should have caught on.
I'm
to
giving
that.
Campbell a C because starting 1-6 is unacceptable. Plus still during some of that stretch where they were winning games, it still seemed like there was a lot of coaching blunders that I just can't forgive. Like mismanaging the clock seems to be like an epidemic with this guy.
Yeah. So as we go into the draft, we got 5 minutes left here before we wrap this up. Give me a little bit of where your draft is and a little bit about what you want to see next season. What are you looking for next season?
Well, next season, if I'm a Lions fan, I'm expecting the playoffs.
You got to make playoffs, right?
I'm expecting the playoffs at minimum as a wild card. I'm expecting to compete for the division with Minnesota.
You think
possibly
Green
win
Bay
it.
is done?
I think Green Bay's done. I think Aaron Rodgers is probably on his way to.
Is Rodgers out of at Green Bay?
I think Rodgers is on his way to become a silver and black Raider, baby. That's what I think.
No way.
That's what I think. But they could save that for another podcast. I think the Lions, I'm expecting to compete for the division, possibly win it at the minimum, make the playoffs as a wild card team.
I would say the Lions need to win the division.
I think you got very
At least
lucky.
a wild card.
I think you got very lucky, and this is something we ain't talked in the first 16 minutes here. You got very lucky that Ben Johnson decided to stay and not take a job coach Carolina Panthers.
I think that favors you here.
because it turns out, he was kind of a favorite to get that job, and I guess he had said that he thinks Detroit's building something special here.
Well,
and he wants to be a part of that.
let me just say.
So you're probably going to get at least one more year out of Ben Johnson.
Let me just say, if I'm Ben Johnson, and if I'm not totally enamored with Carolina,
I wouldn't coach Carolina. I would never go coach Carolina. There's a handful of teams in this league that I don't care that there's only 32 jobs. There's a handful of franchises and organizations in this league that I would never want to play for or coach for.
Yeah,
Carolina's probably one of them.
Jacksonville's one of them. To me.
Jacksonville's probably one of them. The Houston Texans is one of them.
Yeah.
Maybe the Cardinals.
Yeah, maybe
just teams that are just perennially.
The other one's the Lions.
But yeah, the other one is the Lions. Teams that are just perennially just trash and shit.
Maybe
and
Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, have terrible front offices and always have garbage rosters and a terrible culture.
Just terrible.
There's a handful of teams.
Yeah, there's a handful of Cleveland Browns, like I said.
And Carolina's one of them.
Yeah. So I view Ben Johnson coming back this season as kind of like, hey, this is a better situation for me to look at maybe next year because I can do the same thing I did this past year and be even better in a position next year, be even more primed next season, right?
Maybe Kansas City wins the Super Bowl and Andy Reid retires. Ben Johnson goes for a head coaching job.
Oh, you'd have to say Eric Bieniemy gets.
Well, I know, but they're going to do interviews. I'm just saying situations like that can come up, so you never know.
Right.
So you got to smile on the football gods that Ben Johnson ended up staying. That was basically a free agent signing. Sure. That was basically like a huge free agent signing right there in itself. Just keeping him was basically like a huge free agent signing because Jared Goff, despite his limitations as a quarterback, Ben Johnson has seemed to get the most out of him this year. I mean, he had a damn good year. He was the best quarterback in the league the final, I think, 10 or 12 games of the season.
He didn't turn the ball over the last 8 or 9 games.
Yeah, he had, I think, 15 touchdowns, no interceptions. Yeah. I think he had the highest QBR in the league in like the last 10 weeks of the season.
Right.
So, what I look for, I mean, you wanted to touch on the draft a little bit, brother. I don't know. They still have a ton of holes.
I don't know either.
They still have a ton of holes. I mean, I want to say I would probably go defense first 2 picks.
Yeah,
I would probably go the best 2 defensive players. Best 2 defensive players I could take.
The only thing I could say on the offensive side of the ball that if I was to take somebody, I'm still a little leery on J-Mo. I'm sorry.
You want a receiver?
Yeah. I hate to take a receiver. You don't take a tight end. And you don't take an offensive line.
But Chark's gone, so I wouldn't be opposed to getting a receiver. But I'm looking like later in the third round.
I know. Because otherwise, it's like there's nobody else really on offense that you're going to take, right?
No.
Because you're not going to take a running back.
You're not going to take an offensive lineman.
So you got to look defense, I think, at 6 and at 18.
That's where
that's where I'm saying it's like the value of the position leads you to defense, right? And I
Jalen
think-
Carter from Georgia falls
is
to
it
you.
Brian
That's it.
Breesy, or I heard
Brian
I heard
Breesy.
some idiot say
Trenton
some
Simpson.
frig on 97.9. I think it was Brian Brisset.
Never heard of him.
Yeah, Brian Breesy is what I think
Yeah.
he's called.
Oh, I thought you meant
Yeah,
like a
so that-
commentator. Yeah, Brian Bresci, the guy from Clemson. Yeah. Trenton Simpson, another guy from Clemson. Jalen Carter. I think they're probably going to go corner. They're going to take like Joey Porter Jr. or Keely Ringo.
At 18?
Yeah. Well, I think at 6, they're probably going to either get Joey Porter Jr., the corner.
Is Joey Porter Jr. that good?
I don't know if any of the corners in this draft are really shut down guys.
Because I remember him at Penn State, okay, and I've never been all that impressed. I've never been impressed with Penn State. And I mean, aside from Saquon Barkley, I don't think that I think they're frauds.
I'd probably go maybe Keely Ringo, the guy from Georgia, the corner from Georgia. I mean, Georgia's so freaking good.
I think realistically, going corner again that high seems to be
That's a problem.
it's a problem.
Because you just took Okuda like 2 years ago.
Exactly. Like to me, you have like who is the best linebacker? Who is the best middle linebacker coming out?
That you would get at that pick, probably Trenton Simpson from Clemson.
Can he run sideline to sideline?
He's all right. He's a good.
Then if he's all right, it ain't good.
I mean,
enough.
he's not Micah Parsons.
You need to draft the next Luke Kuechly.
He's not Micah Parsons.
Then you need to draft the best defensive lineman.
There's a couple guys later in the draft that you could probably get, like Eichenberg.
Who's that?
From
Jack
Ohio
Campbell
State.
from Iowa. Jack Campbell from Iowa.
There's
I like
there's
him.
Overshone from Texas. There's a couple guys that you could probably get in the second
Eichenberg's
round.
from Ohio State.
Yeah, Eichenberg from
Eichenberg's
OSU.
will be Eichenberg or Jack Campbell. I like the Big Ten.
That's kind of where I'm looking at. I'm looking at like
I think they
Eichenberg.
translate well.
I would be looking at like Eichenberg, Campbell, or Overshone from Texas as like my guy in the second round, my first pick in the second round to take at linebacker.
Well,
but
you need a guy like that, you know. And look at Dallas. I mean, Dallas has got that. What's that guy?
Vander Esch, Leighton
Vander
Vander
Esch.
Esch.
Yeah, I mean, he was an Iowa guy.
No, he was Boise State.
Oh, was he Boise State? Okay, but you know,
Close enough.
same build of type of guy. You know, same build type of guy as a Campbell, as an Eichenberg. You need one of those guys that can run sideline to sideline. Somebody that's better than anal zone. You need somebody better than anal zone.
Ochimama.
So that's where I go. Maybe you go Jalen Carter. Maybe you go
If
Jack
he's
Campbell.
there.
Yeah. Or Breesy. You go Breesy Campbell, or you go Breesy Eichenberg, something like that.
I don't know what they're going to do. It's going to be interesting to watch because the Smith
All I
boys.
know is you get a defensive lineman and a middle linebacker.
Smith boys'
You're
favorite
set.
day of the year is NFL draft.
Yeah.
I look forward to it more than the Super
We'll
Bowl.
preview it more as it comes along. but
Yeah,
let's
when
wrap
more
this up.
mock
We
drafts
are
come out
getting
and stuff.
up there in time.
When more mock drafts come out, we'll break it down a little bit more and stuff like that. So I give Lions B- grade for the season. Brother, you give them a C+.
Yeah, C+.
Okay. You want to give a just before we wrap it up, maybe a futures prediction for next year record wise, and that's how we'll wrap it up.
I am going to say I'm going to say 11 and 6. I can't go 12 and 5. I just can't do it.
Yeah, you started to say 12 there, and I was
I
like,
know.
holy shit.
I'm going to say 11 and 6.
It's not far off. I think I'm going to go 10 and 7,
Okay.
and I think they're going to get in as a wild card.
Yeah.
All right. Well, as the draft gets closer, we'll do a draft. Podcast.
Draft is Smith Boys Christmas 2.0.
Yeah, we'll pull out some mock drafts by some gurus, and we'll discuss them and say what we think, if we think it's shit or not.
Yeah, we'll pull out the big guns on the draft and stuff, and maybe in the next couple weeks we'll look at that.
Till then, Smith Boys.
Cheers.
Out.